Hi, Film Loom here. Today I'm going to explain a horror/mystery film, House of Nine. The story begins with a series of coordinated kidnappings across central London. 9 individuals, men, women, and even a policeman, are abducted from various locations. Shortly afterward, these people awaken unconscious in a mysterious house. One of them, a young woman named Leah, regains consciousness in a bedroom. She sees a man lying on a bed beside her and cautiously sneaks out of the room to investigate. Leah discovers 2 more men unconscious in a nearby room and then tries to open the main door, but it's locked. She checks the windows and finds that all of them are sealed with bricked walls. In a state of panic, Leah rushes to the basement, hoping to find an escape, but there is no way out. Realizing that there is no escape from the house, Leah succumbs to panic, collapsing on the floor. When she regains consciousness, she finds herself under the watch of an elderly priest, Father Duffy. Looking around, Leah realizes that there are 9 total strangers trapped in the house. As the group mutters anxiously among themselves, a mysterious voice suddenly fills the room through a speaker. The voice identifies itself as the Watcher and announces that they have been brought together for a game, a test of their character. The Watcher claims to be observing them through 75 cameras and numerous microphones hidden throughout the house. The stakes are high. The winner of this twisted game will be the last person standing, earning their freedom and a reward beyond their imagination. The atmosphere grows tense as the group faces the terrifying realization that only one will make it out alive. The game, it seems, is not just a test of survival but of human nature itself. After the Watcher's announcement of a $5 million prize for the last person alive, the speaker shuts off, and chaos erupts among the group. The 9 contestants argue violently. Some are convinced that the game is real, while others believe it's an elaborate prank. However, everyone shares the same fear: 8 of them are likely to die. Amidst the bickering, a middle-aged contestant named Jay suddenly pulls out a gun from his pocket. He declares that the situation must be serious if the kidnappers allowed him to keep a weapon. The group recoils in fear at the sight of the gun, prompting Jay to explain that he's a cop. This revelation enrages another contestant, Albie, who accuses Jay of being part of a corrupt police system. He shares that his little brother had been tortured by a group of corrupt white officers. As the argument intensifies, a Frenchman named Francis interrupts, offering his insight. He believes that the Watcher wants them to kill each other. This theory shakes the group, but Jay seems to agree. Realizing the gravity of their situation, Jay suggests they must work together to find a way out. The group then begins to search the house thoroughly, inspecting every nook and cranny for potential exits. Jay heads down to the basement, while Albie spots a wooden trapdoor on the ceiling. Using all his strength, he breaks open the door, only to find that the opening is blocked by a brick wall. Their search proves futile, and they return to the living room. Frustrated, the group confronts Claire, who had been drinking from the liquor cabinet. They accuse her of not helping with the search, but she defends herself, claiming she needed to take the edge off. Jay, upset with her behavior, locks up the liquor cabinet, reasoning that alcohol will only worsen their moods and complicate things further. The group sits down for a serious conversation, during which they all agree they don't want to kill anyone, but they acknowledge that some people might do anything to claim the prize money. Just then, they hear a thudding sound coming from the kitchen downstairs. Rushing to investigate, they discover a small box containing food. Inside, they find a piece of chicken and a boiled potato for each of them. Sitting around the dining table, Father Duffy says a prayer before they all introduce themselves more properly. By now, everyone knows that Father Duffy is a priest and that Jay is a cop. Leah introduces herself as a chorus dancer, and Claire reveals that she is a famous tennis player. There's also the married couple of Francis, a French artist, and his stay-at-home wife, Cynthia. The only black man in the group, Albie, is a rapper. Max, a middle-aged man, is a fashion designer, and Shona, the youngest contestant, is a former addict on parole, wearing a bracelet monitor on her ankle. This gives the group some hope that the police might come looking for her. After dinner, the contestants learn more about the house. There are 5 rooms in total, 2 of which have double beds. Father Duffy, being a priest, claims 1 room for himself, and Francis naturally shares a room with his wife. The remaining 6 contestants randomly pick partners for the night. Jay ends up with Leah, Claire is furious to be paired with Shona, and Max is matched with Albie. Once the pairs settle into their rooms, tensions begin to rise. Claire catches Shona rummaging through her bag, which sparks an angry confrontation between them. Meanwhile, Albie practices his rhymes in bed, while Max, concerned about only having one outfit, carefully hangs his jacket. Father Duffy spends his time in prayer, seeking some comfort in the midst of the chaos. In Jay and Lee's room, the two of them talk about their lives and share some personal stories, seeking solace in their shared experience. In the next scene, Francis is alone with his wife, Cynthia, and expresses how tempting the prize money is. However, Cynthia is shocked that he's even considering it, unable to understand why he would entertain the idea of such a deadly game. As the night unfolds, the uneasy atmosphere among the contestants deepens. They're trapped in this mysterious house, unsure of what the next day will bring, but increasingly aware that their situation could turn far more dangerous as time goes on. Several hours later, in the middle of the night, a sudden attack on Jay shakes everyone awake. The cop, ever vigilant, immediately reaches for his gun, prompting the assailant to flee. Leah, startled by the commotion, rushes to assist Jay, but in the darkness, neither of them can see what's happening. The noise wakes the other contestants, and another argument breaks out. The group begins accusing each other, with Albie being the prime suspect due to his earlier hostility toward Jay. Father Duffy, ever the calming influence, steps in to diffuse the tension, urging everyone to go back to bed. The following morning, the players gather in the living room and quickly realize the temperature in the house is rising by the minute. Anxiety grows, and another argument breaks out. This time, their bickering is interrupted by strange noises coming from outside. The group, hoping it's the police tracking Shona's bracelet monitor, rushes to the front door, banging desperately. Francis, however, stays behind, fully aware that the noise outside is not from the police. Desperate, Jay fires his gun, but the sound fades away, and they're left in silence once more. This devastating realization crushes the last hope of escape. In response to the group's despair, Jay opens the liquor cabinet, and everyone except him, Father Duffy, and Leah begins drinking. The music shifts from melancholic to more upbeat, and the mood, though slightly lifted, remains heavy with tension. The contestants dance, trying to drown their misery in alcohol. Meanwhile, Francis, already intoxicated, leaves the group and attempts to flirt with Leah. She reminds him of his wife, but surprisingly, Francis backs off and retreats to his room. Alone, he wraps his liquor bottle in a bedsheet, smashing it to create sharp glass shards for potential use as weapons. He hides one shard on the doorframe and the rest inside the toilet flush tank. Several hours later, in the middle of the night, Jay is suddenly attacked. The cop reacts quickly, grabbing his gun, which causes the intruder to flee. Leah wakes up to help, but they can't see anything in the darkness. The disturbance wakes the rest of the players, sparking yet another argument. Accusations fly, with Albie becoming the main suspect due to his earlier hostility toward Jay. However, Father Duffy steps in, calming everyone down and sending them back to their rooms. The following morning, the players gather in the living room, only to discover the temperature inside the house rising rapidly. The tension is palpable, and another argument breaks out. Their bickering is interrupted when they hear noises coming from outside. Everyone assumes it's the police tracking Shona's bracelet monitor and rushes to the front door, banging on it in a desperate attempt to get their attention. Only Francis stays behind, knowing it's futile. In a moment of panic, Jay fires his gun, but the noises fade, leaving them in silence. The reality of their situation sets in, and the last shred of hope vanishes. In response to the growing tension, Jay unlocks the liquor cabinet. Everyone, except for him, Father Duffy, and Leah, begins drinking. They turn on some music, starting with a slow, melancholic tune that only deepens their despair. Albie, trying to shift the mood, changes the track to something more upbeat. The drunk contestants begin dancing together, trying to momentarily escape their grim reality. Meanwhile, an intoxicated Francis slips away from the group and attempts to flirt with Leah. She quickly reminds him of his wife, and to her surprise, he leaves her alone. Francis retreats to his room, still clutching a bottle of liquor. He wraps the bottle in a bed sheet and shatters it, making glass shards that he hides inside the doorframe and in the toilet's flush tank. As the night wears on, the group becomes too drunk to keep dancing, leaving only Cynthia and Albie in the living room. Their flirtation intensifies, and they become increasingly close. When Francis returns, he misinterprets the situation and accuses Albie of flirting with his wife. A violent altercation breaks out between the two men, escalating quickly. And while Cynthia tries to pull them apart, Albie accidentally pushes her. This causes her to hit her head against the railing and she dies on the spot. Seconds later, everyone else comes back and are stunned to see the sight. Albie tries to apologize, but a furious Jay locks him in his room by putting an iron bar through the door handles. The group then covers Cynthia's body with a sheet and takes it to the basement. For the rest of the day, the players wander around, contemplating their situation. Francis, meanwhile, finds his wife's lipstick and puts it on before kissing the mirror. In the evening, the players are annoyed to see they've been provided with a reduced portion of just potatoes. Albie begins banging on his door, demanding to have his portion. After lots of pressure from the others, Jay goes and gives him just a tiny piece of potato. Duffy, however, thinks it's unfair and leaves to give more food to Albie. Jay rushes to stop him, but the door has already been opened. A furious Albie then jumps out of the room and pushes the priest aside. He grabs the iron bar and starts hitting Jay without mercy, completely destroying his face. When the rapper eventually snaps out of his anger and realizes what he's done, he hides back in his room. Shortly after, Duffy arrives in the room, and Jay uses his last breath to give his gun to the priest. In the next scene, his body is also covered and placed in the basement alongside Cynthia's. For the next meal, the players receive extra food and wine with a good work note as a reward for killing. Leah and Duffy are the only ones who eat in the dining room. The others have become too paranoid and now start eating alone. Rather surprisingly, Francis takes a huge portion of the food and gives it to Albie. The Frenchman also says he understands that Cynthia's death had been an accident. The scene abruptly shifts to moments later as Leah and Duffy go to check on Albie. But they instead come across his lifeless body hanging from the ceiling with Max's scarf. The news quickly spreads throughout the house and another argument ensues. Everyone suspects Francis of having sought revenge for his wife's death. He insists that Albie did it to himself, then tries to pass the blame to Max because it was his scarf. Once again, it's Duffy who stops the fight, declaring the whole argument to be pointless. Everyone leaves in different directions as they are wary of each other. Duffy and Leah then take Albie's body to the basement, while Francis continues using the lipstick in private, indicating that he's losing his mind. Sometime later, Claire finds Shona touching her stuff, and their simple argument escalates into a fistfight. In a moment of madness, Claire grabs the corkscrew from a nearby wine bottle and stabs Shona in the neck. In another room, Leah is washing her face when Francis suddenly shows up. He rips the light fixture from the wall and dunks it in the sink full of water. Poor Leah is electrocuted and after several seconds, she collapses to the ground. Meanwhile, Duffy goes to talk to Max and proposes to work together to survive. But the latter is greedy and asks for extra portions of food in exchange. The priest turns him down, saying it wouldn't be fair to the others. But Max ignores him and tries to steal a large